What if I told you the world's biggest sports brand wasn't created by a superstar athlete, but by someone who actually failed in sports? How does a man with shattered athletic dreams go on to build a billion-dollar empire like Nike? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll see how failure can sometimes be the greatest thing that ever happens to you. So what do you think? Can failure be the key to success? Let's find out. Chapter 1. The Dream That Never Took Off. Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, didn't start out as a business genius. In fact, his first love wasn't business at all. It was running. Growing up, Knight had a dream of becoming a world-class athlete, but despite his hard work, he never made it. He ran track for the University of Oregon, but he wasn't fast enough to make it to the big leagues. Imagine dedicating your life to something only to realize that you're just not good enough to achieve your dream. But here's the kicker. Knight's failure on the track ended up being the spark that ignited something even greater. After realizing his athletic career wasn't going anywhere, Knight decided to turn his love for running into a business idea. He wanted to find a way to help athletes run faster, even if he couldn't do it himself. And that's where everything began. But Knight didn't start by building a massive company like Nike. His first business venture was far from glamorous, and it almost didn't work at all. Chapter 2. Selling shoes out of a trunk. Phil Knight's first step into the world of business was far from what you'd expect for the man who would later revolutionize the sneaker industry. After graduating from college, he took a trip to Japan, where he discovered the Onitsuka Tiger brand, a Japanese company making high-quality running shoes for a fraction of the price of American brands. Knight saw an opportunity. He convinced the company to let him distribute their shoes in the U.S., and with $50 from his dad, he started selling shoes right out of the trunk of his car. Picture this: Phil Knight, a failed athlete, driving from track meet to track meet, hustling to sell shoes to local runners. He didn't have a store, a brand, or even a plan for the future. He was just trying to make a sale. But there was one big problem. Knight had no idea how to run a business. He was running out of money, and his sales weren't growing fast enough to keep things afloat. Little did he know, his big break was just around the corner, and it would come from an unexpected source. Chapter 3. The Birth of the Swoosh. As Knight's shoe business, originally called Blue Ribbon Sports, started to grow, he realized that selling someone else's brand wasn't going to cut it if he wanted to make a real impact. He needed his own brand, something unique that could capture the spirit of athletes everywhere. Enter Carolyn Davidson, a design student Knight knew from Portland State University. He paid her just $35 to create a logo for his new brand, and she came up with the now iconic swoosh. At first, Knight wasn't even sure he liked the logo, but he ran with it anyway. Sometimes the most legendary things start with a shrug and a "why not?" This was the birth of Nike. The name came from the Greek goddess of victory, and Knight's mission was clear. He was going to build a company that would help athletes win, even if he never did. But even with a new brand and a bold vision, Nike almost didn't survive its first few years. In fact, Knight came close to losing everything more than once. Chapter 4. The Struggles Behind the Success. Building a brand from scratch wasn't easy. In the early days of Nike, Knight and his team struggled with everything from cash flow problems to legal battles. At one point, they were so deep in debt that the company was at risk of collapsing. Banks refused to loan them any more money, and their competitors were starting to notice their potential, meaning the pressure was on. To keep the business alive, Knight had to take huge risks. He took out loans, maxed out credit lines, and kept pushing forward, even when it looked like Nike might fail. It's easy to see Nike's success today and think it was destined to happen, but back then, nothing was guaranteed. Knight was fighting tooth and nail to keep his dream alive. And yet, it was one game-changing move that truly set Nike apart and turned it into the global powerhouse we know today. You can probably guess who played a huge part in this. Chapter 5: The Michael Jordan Effect. In 1984, Nike made what might be the smartest decision in sports marketing history. They signed a then-rookie basketball player named Michael Jordan. At the time, Nike wasn't even considered the go-to brand for basketball shoes. That title belonged to Adidas and Converse. But Knight saw something in Jordan, and Nike created the Air Jordan line, which became a cultural phenomenon. The Air Jordans didn't just change the game for Nike, they changed the entire sneaker industry. Sales skyrocketed, and Nike went from being a scrappy underdog to the dominant force in sportswear. The partnership with Jordan is often credited as the turning point that transformed Nike from a niche running brand into the global juggernaut it is today. But what if I told you that even with Michael Jordan on their side, Nike's journey was far from smooth? The company faced major controversies that could have sunk them. Chapter 6: Controversies and Triumphs. Success doesn't come without its share of challenges. As Nike grew into a global brand, they faced criticism for their labor practices. In the 1990s, the company came under fire for using overseas factories that allegedly exploited workers. Protests erupted, and Nike's image took a serious hit. But here's the thing. Rather than ignore the criticism, Knight and Nike made a decision that would save the brand. They doubled down on transparency, improving working conditions in their factories, and launching sustainability initiatives. While the road was rocky, Nike emerged stronger, with a renewed focus on social responsibility. It's a testament to how even the biggest brands need to evolve and learn from their mistakes. So, how did a failed athlete go from selling shoes out of a car to building one of the most successful companies in history? From failure to fortune, Phil Knight's story isn't just about business, it's about resilience. He turned personal failure into a billion-dollar empire by embracing risk, pushing through adversity, and never giving up on his vision. What started as a failed athletic career ended in one of the greatest business success stories of all time. Nike didn't just help athletes win, it helped Knight realize that failure is often the first step on the road to greatness. So, what do you think? Can failure really be the key to success? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about the darker,